Hi everyone, welcome to Knitting Noodles. And as you can see by my backdrop, I'm not in my usual place. I am on vacation right now in Florida, staying at my friend's house. So we'll mix it up. Still do videos on vacation. It's fun, why not? Anyway, today, someone requested that I go over how to do a teddy bear pattern. So if you have any requests, please, I'll put my email down below or comment. If you want me to cover how to do something, I am more than happy to do that. So they requested a teddy bear pattern, and I'm going to go over how to do that. I have this pattern right here. Now this pattern calls for double point needles. However, I know that the girl who requested this, that she does not have double point needles and doesn't know how to use them. So I'm going to adapt this pattern into how to do it on straight needles. So I will show you the original pattern. I'll link to the original pattern, and then I will show you how to do it like flattening it out, like how to do it on straight needles, and then you just seam it up at the end and you'd still get the same result. So let's get into making this very cute little teddy bear. All right, so for this pattern, it calls for a size 6 needle, which I have size 6 straight needle, and the yarn that it uses is Lily's Sugar and Cream, which is very easy to find in all the craft stores. And it's a little bit of a thicker mid-weight yarn. I am using a different type of yarn today. This I believe I got from Hobby Lobby. It is cotton and linen, and it is similar enough that it won't make that big of a difference. And this is a pattern that can easily be adapted to different sizes. I've used this exact same pattern on a super duper chunky yarn. I used really big needles, and I made like a big size teddy bear. It's like this big. Or you can make a really tiny one, make a little baby bear. So I will just go over the basics of the pattern. So for this, first thing you want to do is, in your preferred cast on method, cast on 4 stitches. All right, 4 stitches. Oh, I left too long of a tail. And 4 stitches. Now the first thing we're going to do is, this is the same as in the original pattern, is we are going to increase a stitch into every stitch until the end of the row. Now what they mean by this is we are going to knit into the front and back of every stitch on here, so we then have 8 stitches. So we're going to, if you need a review, I believe it's up on this side. I have a video for how to do increases. So knitting into the front and back, you knit a regular stitch, and instead of slipping it off, you go back into the back loop of the stitch. All right, sorry, I just had to redo my setup. It's a little difficult not having my normal stuff with me. I just have my basic ring light. So overhead shots are a little hard. Anyway, we are going to continue on. This, I think, just gives a better view of what I am actually doing. So knit into the front stitch. We go back in through the back loop. So you can see right there. Oop, didn't get the full yarn. Come back. Oh, I'm just gonna have to redo it. All right, do the back loop, pull it through, and then we take it off the needle. So knit, don't take it off, through the back loop, and through. One more stitch to do that on. Come on. Knit one, and then the next. All right, now, this pattern is in stockinette stitch, and it originally is knit in the round on double point needles. However, since we are gonna do it on straight needles, we do have to incorporate purl stitches into it. The number of rows should be the same for this, and it's helpful because there's alternating just knit and increase rows. So what we're gonna do instead is the rows that it says knit, we're going to just purl. So the first thing we're gonna do, we did our increases. First round, it says to knit, which means we are actually going to purl. So if you need to review how to purl, up in the top right corner. All right, next row is a knit row. We're gonna do some increases. So we're going to, also make sure that you have a pen and a piece of paper to keep track of rows. Let me grab mine from my handy storage unit here. These are super nice, especially if you're traveling, just to keep all your needles and your little tools in there. It's been very nice traveling with this. All right, so let's get rid of this old one, and we just did one row. Good morning. So now we go into the second row, which on the pattern is written as round. For this, we're going to knit one, make one. So if you don't remember how to do increases, I had a little video up here, it should be, on how to do increases. So knit into the front and back is one. The other one is to make a stitch. And how we do that is we find the little connector piece, we loop it, go through the front, and then we knit through the back loop as if this is a regular stitch. And now we have an extra stitch, and we keep doing that. Knit one, and then make one. All right, now we're at the last stitch. Now, it's different if you're working in the round, because in the round, this stitch and this stitch would be connected, and so we'd pick up a stitch in between the first and the last. But because we're working in the flat, we don't have that ability. So what we're gonna do for the last stitch of the row, so you knit one, make one, all the way to the last stitch, and then we're just gonna do again, knit into the front and back. Now I believe I'm gonna switch it up every row. So for the next time we do increases, we're gonna do knit into the front and back, but this time of the first stitch. That way it's not lopsided on one side. All right, so this was row 2. Now the next row is again just a purl. All right, that's the purl row done, and we are on 3. Now a good thing to keep in mind if you're getting confused, odd rows are always going to be purl rows. All right, then we're on to the 4th row, and this time we're gonna do knit 2. However, first up, we're gonna knit into the front and back. And just for this first one, what I want to do is instead of knit 2, I'm going to knit 1. Now, if you're confused on this, I will have everything written down so you could follow the exact pattern. This is just something that makes sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to you, I do have it written down, so you could just follow that instead of being confused. All right, make 1, and now we go on, we knit 2 and make 1. Now at the end of this row, we should have 24 stitches. So once we get to the end, I will double check that. Okay, we have 24 stitches. I made a little bit of mistake and halfway through, I started doing knit 1, make 1 instead of knit 2. So I had to go back until I found where I messed up and I just redid it. Not that big of a deal. If you mess up, you can always backtrack. So that was number 4. And now again, we're on to an odd row, which means it's purl time. All right, purl row is done. That's number 5. On to row 6. Now for the 6th row, it's knit 4, make 1. And so again, since the last time we did increases, we knit into the front and back of the first stitch. We're now gonna knit into the front and back of the last stitch, just so we can switch back and forth. So let's get started on that. All right, so for this, we're gonna knit 4, make 1. So we skip knit 3. We went from knit 2, make 1, to knit 4. We skip on over to 4. Make 1, knit another 4. Now we've come to the last stitch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna knit the 3 and we are going to knit into the front and back of that last stitch. So now we should have 30 stitches. Let's just double check, make sure we didn't mess up.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 stitches.
All right, 6. And odd number row means purling. That is row 7 done. Now the thing about the yarn that I'm using is it does like to shed a lot as you're working. So it's a little bit annoying, but I do really like how it feels. All right, anyway, on to row 8, which is another increase row. This time we are going to knit 5, make 1. Now if you recall last row, we did knit into the front and back of the last stitch, which means now we're gonna do it into the front stitch. So first is knit into the front and back. And now instead of knitting 5, since we already worked the first stitch, we are going to knit 4. 3, 4, and then we're gonna make 1. That's only for the first part. From now on, after this make 1 stitch, we are going to knit 5. Now we should have 36 stitches. So always double check after your increase row to make sure you didn't mess up. So if you did mess up, it's really easy to backtrack because it was definitely the row that you just did that the mess up happened, which is what happened to me earlier.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36.
All right, that's 8. Then we're gonna do row 9, and row 9 is again purling. All right, row 9 is done. Now what I want everyone to do, if you're writing down, like I do tally marks, it's just a habit I have. I don't honestly know why I do it. Just easier for me to keep track. So what you're gonna do if you're writing it down is to make a line to separate, because we're gonna start a new count. Because the next thing we have to do is to work in the stockinette stitch for 12 rows. So that means knit one row, purl the next row. If you have like a stitch counter, which I know some of you must have, it's like a little twist thing. At this point, instead of dividing it out, you just set it back to 0 and start counting to 12. So now we're gonna do 12 of just stockinette stitch. So first row is gonna be knit, then purl, then knit, then purl, all the way until you get to 12. So we'll see you when I have 12. Okay, so I finished my 12 rows. Now what we have to do is work on shaping the neck. Because right now, what we've just done is finished the body. So, it's kind of like a little pear shape, and then it later becomes a bear. And I'll show you how to shape like the arms and stuff to make it a little cuter. But we're gonna start on shaping the neck. Now, the pattern is a little weird because it does not have numbers for some reason here. So I'm just gonna quickly add those in just so I don't get lost. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. All right. So the first row, we're gonna do 4 rows for shaping the neck. So again, separate it out. If you have one of those stitch counters, set it back to 0. We're gonna go 4 rows. The first row, you're gonna start by knitting 2 together. So if you need to review how to do decreases, how to knit 2 together, I have a video, it's gonna be in the upper right, that you can watch to review. I'll do a very short review here. So basically this whole row, we're just gonna knit 2 together. So all the stitches across. Let me move this out of the way. And at the end of this row, we should have 18 stitches. And that's the last knit 2 together. We're gonna write that down. That was row 1. Now row 2 is going to be purl. Alright, that is row 2. Row 3. Alright, now we are gonna go back to making stitches. So just that one decrease is gonna be enough to cinch the neck in. So now we're gonna go back to increasing a few stitches. We're gonna start that off by, let's see, the last time we did an increase, I believe we did it in the first stitch, which means we're gonna wait until the last one to do it. If I'm wrong, oh well. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, it's been a while. So we're gonna knit 3, make 1. And just continue this across until the last stitch. Now, as you can see, we have 2 stitches left. So what we're gonna do is knit 1, and that last stitch we're going to knit into the front and back. And at the end of this, we should have 24 stitches. So let me see if I did it right.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 24. I did it right.
Thank goodness. All right, that was row 3. There it goes again. All right, row 4. We're actually going to purl another row. So row 4 is purl. All right, that's row 4. And now we are gonna do another row row 5. So we're adding that extra row in there just so there's no holes in the neck. All right, so what we're gonna do for this one, first stitch, we're gonna knit into the front and back. So remember, for the last time we did increases, we did knit into the front and back in the last stitch. So this time we're gonna do the front. We're going to knit 3, and then we are going to make 1. Now after this, we are going to knit 4. It's just for that first one that we knit 3. So now we're doing knit 4. And then we make 1. And then we knit a last 4. And the end of this, we should have... slid off. We should have 30 stitches. So always double check to make sure if you messed up, because even the best of us sometimes mess up and have to backtrack.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Yes, it didn't mess up. All right, that was row 5. And now once again, we are dividing this up for yet another section. You have a counter, set it back to 0. We are now going to do 9 rows of just stockinette stitch. So knit, then purl, knit, then purl. In this case, we're starting with a purl. So purl is number 1. And we're just gonna go for 9 rows. See you in 9. All right, guys, I am going to continue the rest of this in next week's video, because it was just getting too long to fit it all into one. So I will see you all next week. KK, bye.